Hello and welcome, the div tag. So this is another fairly fundamental lesson. We're going to be talking about the most common tag. We've been showing you tags that have some semantic meaning all this time, like, a P means paragraph, and H1 means heading, and it means the biggest heading. And so there's all sort of this semantic meaning there. There's this idea that this tag means something visually, but when we're programming, we want to be pretty flexible, and that's sort of the whole value proposition of programming, is that it's extremely flexible. It also makes it more difficult. That's why it takes longer to learn, but you can build anything. And so in HTML, we need a tag that's just very generic that we can do a bunch of stuff with, and that tag is the div. Div stands for division. So like division of a document. You can think of it as dividing up your HTML document. So let's go ahead and just add a div. Let's really, oops, that's not what we wanted to insert. Div. Okay, so you'll see that we've passed some tests already, because that's one of the instructions up here, is wrap the existing H1 and P tags in a div. So this is the idea of wrapping. When we say wrapping in the context of HTML, we mean create a tag that envelops some other thing. Or another way to put that sort of backwards is to put all those other things inside of another tag. And you can see that lines 2 through 5 over here are inside the div. So it is wrapping the H1 and the P tag. I formatted there to make the indentation a bit more clear. And so there we go. We've got a div, and it doesn't do anything visually, you can see. In fact, we can go add more divs. We could put this inside of its own div, closing out the div, opening the div. You see there's no visual change, and that's because the div is really for dividing things, sectioning things off, and once you have it, you can style it. So this is where it gets very interesting, because you have all these divs here, and they're not doing anything. They're sort of not adding anything to our application. They're not adding anything to our HTML page. But when we want to style things, that's when they become very important. So let's style the div to have a teal background. Let's open up our style tag. Style tag, style. All right, and we will say div. So this is every div, not just one specific div. Every div should have a background of teal. All right, and there you go. There's a teal background on those divs. And the thing is, you can do all sorts of other stuff here. You can style it like you can style anything. We can say color white, and we can totally change the theme of this UI. Where this will become really interesting and very useful is later on. I'm going to format that. That's bugging me. There we go. Later on, when we're building layouts, when we have a layout, meaning you want things to be arranged in a certain way. So layout is sort of the way everything looks and is arranged together. I'm just going to draw some boxes here. I'm going to draw, oops. So we have this box over here, say, and this is your application area. Color it in. We've got the instruction pane over here. We've got all your code in here, and there are the test results here. There's stuff down below as well. And this is it's all arranged in a certain way on the screen. It's all laid out. It has a layout. And so you can think of these, like if you look at the markup of our site, there'd be a whole lot of divs, not just these boxes that I'm circling here, but it's one way to think about it. You can just think of these conceptually as their own div, because they literally are their own div, but there are more divs. There are divs inside of them. There are tons and tons of nested divs. So you can think of these as being layout divisions. We've divided the UI, this particular screen, into 1, 2, 3, 4 different divs, different divisions. So divs are very useful for this when you want to lay things out. I'm going to go ahead and get that off screen. So that's sort of the why. That's why we care about this. And And I want to introduce the why early because right now it may seem fairly useless. You get a tag that doesn't have any look and feel to it, and yeah, you can apply some styles, but it's not that interesting. So later on, just know for now that it can be very useful for layouts. And later on, when we get into CSS classes as well, CSS classes is going to allow us to style individual divs, or we're going to say we want these divs to look one way, those divs to look another way, and things get really flexible and really powerful, and that's where you can just build any application you want. All right, that is all for now. See you in the next lesson.